Okay, today we're going to try to learn some Latin and read a useful text. This is a text I've never read before, but it is of interest to me. Aבות de Rabbi Nathane. He is Aבות de Rabbi Nathane. That is considered, I guess, a midrash sort of commentary on Avot, on Mishnah Avot. And it is much longer than Avot. It apparently expands on the content of Avot, and it was translated into Latin. I'm going to simultaneously read the Hebrew, which I understand better, the Latin, which I'd like to understand better than I do. The Latin I'm learning, and it always helps to have the Hebrew next to it. The Hebrew tends to be written in a, rabbinic style that I'm really used to. The words are simple, or at least mostly known to me. I'm going to highlight the words I don't know in both. I'm going to look them up. I'm just going to read. I'm going to try to enjoy these texts while recording myself, and hopefully everybody can follow along. We're going to quickly look at Avot de Rabbi Nathane. Let's see if we can get the page up here. So it looks like I'm looking at the, for the Hebrew, I'm looking at a 1887 Shalman Schechter edition, which has a long introduction by Salman Schechter, and the 2-column version of Avot that's talked about here was published because it seems like there are two very different versions of the Midrash that were published, and the one that was translated into Latin seems to be Nusach Aleph, which is in the right column on this page. And that's the one that interests me. This book, which was translated by a guy named Francis Taylor into Latin, Franciscus Taylorus in Latin. This one was a translation that it looks like was published in 1654 in London. And first I'd like to highlight a few things, interesting things here. Let me just get this highlight tool working. Annotate, highlight text. Okay, that's already on, so I'm not sure why it's not doing that. Let's see, annotate. Okay, I'll just place rectangles over things that I think are interesting. We see a typographical error on the front page. The tav and the nun are transposed. This should be Natan, but instead it says Tanan, which is a little bit funny. Tractatus de Patribus. So if we quickly look at the Latin pater, we'll notice that because pater in Latin is a third declension noun, it is a masculine third declension, Patribus is the dative and the ablative of this. Clearly, de patribus, de meaning about, takes the ablative. So, Tractatus de Patribus is how they've translated Mesechet Avot. So, Mesechet is tractate, and Avot, obviously, Av is pater, and because the smicha becomes patribus, about. Right, and this says, in linguam latinam translatus, una with una cum notis marginalibus. So with marginal notes. Why is it una cum? Una, is that with? You see, I'm not super familiar with the Latin. Una, right. Together simultaneously with company at the same time. So we're going to want to just quickly grab this to note it as a screenshot. Compile these things later on. And then we're off. So let's get into the text itself. So we've got this Latin text written by a guy named Francis Taylor, published in London, 1654. We have a Solomon Schechter critical edition with 2 versions of the text. And that was published in 1887, right? So now let's start reading. And hopefully let's find a means of highlighting, because that would really make things nicer. I'll just stick to this. I'll stick to this. So I'll start by reading the original, although I wanted to highlight one thing already. In the text, I couldn't help myself because I am trying out the various functionality of preview. Okay, so Avot de Rabbi Nathane. Okay, Perek Aleph. Moshe nitkadesh ba'anan v'kibel Torah misinai shene'emar v'yishken kavod Hashem al har Sinai leMoshe. So that is quoting Shemot Chaf Daled, and then here they've made a mistake because you didn't actually write. Maybe Solomon Schechter didn't care about writing the name of God, but I doubt that. Yud Vav, why would he break with tradition? This really should be Tet Zayin to be 16. So it says 24:16, although a highly irregular way of writing 16 here. And so I'm just going to highlight this to note this strangeness. So we avoid writing Yud Vav because it is the name of God, and because of that we have a different way to add up to 16 using the numerical values of the Hebrew letters, using Tet Zayin. 9 plus 7 is 16, as opposed to 10 plus 6. Okay. L'ta'aro ze haya ma'aseh echad aseret hadibrot. Okay, so if I was to translate that, Moshe became holy in a cloud and received the Torah from Sinai. As it is said, the glory of God dwelled on the mountain of Sinai for Moshe. Okay. L'ta'aro ze haya ma'aseh achar aseret hadibrot. So to purify him, this was a story after the 10 Commandments. Divrei Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Okay. I guess Rabbi Akiva Oimer. Okay, so I guess I should stop after Aseret Hadibrot. So it's not totally clear to me what that is saying. Like Moshe got the Torah from Sinai. The kavod of Hashem, the glory of God, dwelled on the mountain for Moshe. And then the purification, to purify him, this was after the 10 Commandments. That's not totally clear to me. Perhaps by reading the Latin, I'll have a better idea of what is going on. let's confirm what I just read by reading in Latin. So, first of all, Moses in nube sanctificatus fuit, et legem e Sinai accepit, sicut dictum est, et mansit gloria Hashem super montem Sinai. Super Mosen ad purificandum eum, hoc fuit post mandata accepta. Okay, so first of all, it seems very similar. Moses in a cloud. I was confused by, I recognize the word for cloud, of course, but I wasn't sure when I read this what the declension and the nominative form of cloud is. And now I see that it's a slightly strange word, nubes, third declension, feminine word. Nubes is the nominative singular, nube in the ablative. Okay, so that's cloud. So here we had a, I believe this is a Mishnaic form. It's not hitpa'el, the normal reflexive, nor is it the passive. It's the nitpa'el, which I believe is a purely Mishnaic form. But yeah, it usually conveys some sort of reflexivity. So right, and passive, like this, Moses fuit, the perfect of est, of sum, right? It's the third person singular perfect, third person singular perfect indicative of sum, right? Et legem, the translation of Torah. So they're going for lex. The word legem is the accusative of lex, and lex is another third declension. We've got a lot of third declension in this sentence here. So, a Sinai accepit, and the law he received from Sinai. Okay. Interestingly, they did not translate mountain, but okay. They just wrote Sinai as opposed to the Mount Sinai. Very good. Sicut dictum est. So, sicut dictum est, I guess, is the translation of Shene'emar, which is an interesting thing to note. I'd like to highlight it in a different color, just to draw my attention to it if I ever. It's a very useful term. Sicut thus. So sicut, sic means thus, ut, just like. So sicut literally means just as. Dictum is the gerundive, I believe. Let's see. It is the accusative supine of diku. Thus it is said. A term for an infinitive verb in some languages, in Latin, a form of verbal noun, used for the ablative and accusative case of an infinitive. Okay. Alright, so it's not gerundive. Dictum is also a word, but obviously that's not it. Thus it is said. Okay, very good. Et mansit gloria Hashem super montem Sinai, right? So here they get the same quote, Exodus 24:16, as we had here, although it doesn't have a little mistake there. Okay. So et mansit gloria. So mansit is to dwell, like a mansion, same root. So mansit is maneo, and it is also the perfect. It's a third person singular perfect indicative active of maneo. And maneo, we see it says, I stay, remain, abide. Okay, so that's all clear. Super montem, right? Al Har Sinai, exactly. Al Har Sinai. So al, I guess, is super. Okay. Now we get into an interesting section here. L'ta'aro ze haya ma'aseh achar aseret hadibrot. Super mosen ad purificandum eum. So why does it say super? Is there some meaning of super that I'm not aware of? Mosen looks like accusative. Let me just pull up another Wiktionary page. Accusative of Moses, yes. Moses, I guess, is a third declension, like everything else in the sentence. Yeah, Mosem would be another option. So, okay. So, it is super plus accusative. What does it mean? Above, with ablative, concerning, regarding, but we're not. With accusative of measure, above, okay. So why are they talking about his purification? Because there's nothing at purificandum eum. Purificandum is the gerund, I'd like to say. Purificandum. Accusative gerund of purifico. I purify, I cleanse. Purus fico, gerund. Hoc fuit post mandata accepta. Okay. Hoc fuit post. Yeah, so it's interesting because they said l'ta'aro. And then zaya achar aseret hadibrot. That is hoc fuit post. So super mosem ad purificandum eum. That's all the translation of l'ta'aro. It's a little difficult to understand, honestly. But we keep going. Okay. So let's keep going. Perhaps things will become clearer. Oh, hey. Highlighting works now? What is this? What? Highlighting here won't work because it's not. Okay. Well, it's not a great feature, honestly, because it seems like if it doesn't recognize a line of text, then it won't highlight, and yeah, let's forget about that. So, Divrei Rabbi Yossi Haglili. Rabbi Akiva Oimer V'chesahu ha'anam sheshet yamim. So Rabbi Yossi Haglili and Rabbi Akiva said that the cloud covered him for 6 days. Lahar velo, I guess that's redacted. Lahar velo Moshe, okay. Mirosh Chodesh, okay. You know what? Actually, I'm going to take a look at this commentary. Achar dibrot be... Not sure what this Rosh Tevot means. Maaseh achar aseret dibrot ve'al ha'gilyon harishonot. Okay, this commentary doesn't seem super useful. Okay. Let's keep going. The Moshe Mirosh Chodesh. Okay, so from the first of the month, the cloud covered Moses for 6 days. Vayikra el Moshe bayom hashvi'i mitoch ha'anan lechaluk lo kavod leMoshe, to apportion glory to Moses. Okay, Sof Pasuk. So this is a good stopping point. Rabbi Yossi Galileus, I should read. Et Rabbi Akiva dikit. Also using the singular here, dikit, as opposed to simply saying the plural. It's a direct translation. It's more of a direct translation of the Hebrew line. I don't believe this is typical for Latin. Okay. Et texit eum nubes sex dies. Okay, so the subject here is nubes. The verb is texit or tergeō, which means to cover. So if we go to tergeō and I look at the Latin, I cover, I clothe, I protect. Might as well note this. And so during 6 days, now 6 dies, is that ablative of time? No, it would be deibus. 6 dies. Just 6 days, huh? Okay, if that's how you can say it, if that's a means of saying it in Latin, I'll take it. Okay, Mosen sicutigitur. So, sicutigitur again. Sicutigitur is shenemar. Again, they wrote doesn't appear in the Hebrew text because it says Vaychetzu anan sheshet yamim leMoshe mirosh chodesh, right? Which is excluded. Because the mirosh chodesh is redacted from this text, the Hebrew text, and it is entirely missing from the Latin text, right? Because they don't include these manuscript variants. Then Vayikra el Moshe, before they get to that, they say Mosen SC Sicutigitur, as it is said, to introduce another quote, et in clamavit Mosen die septimo e medio nubis. So, e medio nubis, from the middle of the cloud. Nubis would be genitive there. Let's go to the nubis page. Nubis. Nubis is genitive. E medio. Medius. second declension. And then medio would be the ablative, from the middle. That is an adjective? Huh. Well, I guess you have to say that medio is also a verb, otherwise this would not make sense. Also a noun, and not simply an adjective. So, whatever. But we get it, okay? In medio nubis, from the middle of the cloud. Okay. So what is this SC? Maybe etc. or something. Ut mosi gloriam impertiret. Impertiret. Here we have the chaluk, which the chaluk, okay. The chaluk lo kavod leMoshe, right? To give him, to apportion, I believe. Let's verify that by looking up the Hebrew and the Latin. Latin first because it's easier to type. Impertiret. Impertio. I bestow, I impart, entrust, share, communicate, exactly as I said. Impartio. Okay. Let's get this here. So, Moses was covered by a cloud for 6 days, and on the seventh day, he called to Hashem from within the cloud to give him glory. Okay. Let's see if we can find this SC dot in Latin. Sculpsit. Use an engraving with the name of the engraver. That's probably not it, honestly. Abbreviation of skiliket, namely to wit. Skire liket. It is permitted to know. Of course, naturally, to wit, undoubtedly. Okay. That is to say, medieval. Well, that might be it. I'm going to note this, although let's also check quickly. Naturellement, il va sans dire que, it goes without saying that. Okay. I like this dictionary because it's just a little more direct. Lewis and short is often a little too intense, too many definitions. But yeah, it looks the same. That is to say, clearly. Okay. So, might as well mark that as an interesting thing. As an interesting thing. So, the cloud covered Moshe to give him glory. Okay. Okay. Now we're starting after the Sof Pasuk. I'm going to Rabbi Nathane, מפני מה נתעכב משה כל 6 ימים ולא shara alav or sara alav, rested with him. Okay. ולא שרה עליו דיבור בשביל שימרק מכל אכילה ושתייה שהיה במאב עד שעה שנתקדש ויהי כמלאכי השרת. So Rabbi Nathane said, why did Moshe delay 6 days and velo shara alav dibur? I guess, and there was no prophecy, like the word did not rest on him. I guess that means he did not prophesy. And bishvil sheyimarek mikol achila, so that he is polished or purified from all his food and drink that was in his intestines, until the hour that he becomes sanctified and he becomes like the ministering angels, period. Okay. Now in Latin. Let's see this. Now in Latin. Dixit Rabbi Nathane, quārē moratus est Moses 6 dies, priusquam illum alloquī incipit Deus. Eo fine ut abstergēre ab omni cibo et potu qui fuit in visceribus eius usque ad orum illam in qua sanctificatus fuit, et esset sicut angeli ministeri. Okay, so first of all, I'd like to point out that we have a dicit and dixit. This dicit is singular present, right? Dicit. Third person singular present indicative, whereas dixit is the perfect. So that's obvious. Sorry for perfect indicative active deco, right? No, this was obvious. I just didn't really pay attention the first time, although obviously that's reflected in the Hebrew as well. So what did Rabbi Nathane say? Quārē moratus est Moses 6 dies. So why? Quārē, as opposed to cur. Because cur, I'd say, is the Latin for why. So if I said, why, for what reason, wherefore, for what purpose, for what motive, cur in terra iaces, why are you lying on the ground? Let's see what happens here. But here they ask quārē, which is something I don't see as often. So quārē, how, by what means, from what cause, on what account, or for. Quārē, the ablative of res. By what thing? And we see that cur is given as a synonym. Okay, very interesting. I'll note this. It's a very interesting word. Clearly, it will come up more. So quārē. Moratus, to delay. I don't know this word, but I know the Hebrew. Perfect participle of moror. Moratus, lingered, loitered, hated, delayed. Okay, quotation. Let's get a quotation here. Paucus dies ibi morati. They delayed a few days there. Okay. So that's worth noting. This is certainly worth noting. And moror, it is a first conjugation, a deponent verb. Okay, let's look at moror, moraris, moratur, moramur, moramini, morantur. Aha. So it is deponent. It does not have passive. So it only looks like it's conjugated in the what looks like the passive. Okay. So very interesting. Mora is a delay. The morrow, although it's obviously not that, right? Mora. It is delay as a hindrance. I'm just going to note that as well. Okay. Okay. Quārē moratus est Moses 6 dies. So, for what reason is he delayed 6 days? Because we said moratus is the perfect participle of moror. He is delayed. Okay, interesting. This is the participle. Okay. Let's just keep going. The priusquam illum alloquī incipit Deus. Priusquam. Hebrew, et non incipit oratio ad eum. Incipit oratio ad eum. Incepit. To begin, right? Inception. Incipio. I begin. I commence. I did not begin speaking to him. Priusquam. Priusquam is one I don't know. Priusquam. I guess I'm not noting everything that I'm highlighting, right? Let's choose some colors for like new words. Rectangle. Quārē. That was a weird one. Priusquam. Spanning 2 lines. Not a big deal. We have the technology to handle this. Priusquam. Priusquam, before, until. Priusquam. Perfectly logical. So the Latin translator chooses a more natural translation into Latin, but notes the original Hebrew in the marginal note. That's very nice. Okay, because the original Hebrew said, "Kol sheshet yamim velo sara alav dibur bishvil." Aha. So also this word sarah. To soak. Shara, to let loose. Did not let loose his word. Is that quoting the Bible? No. It's not a pasuk. Because it's either that, to soak, to permeate, to let loose, or it's something weird. So yeah, okay, let loose. Do not let loose his word. Illum alloquī incipit Deus. So alloquī, that's definitely a new one. Let's get another rectangle. What do we get from alloquī? Alloquor. Perfect dative and negative alloquor. To talk to. Allocor. Beautiful. Oops. There we go. I speak, address, salute, exhort, rouse, comfort, appeal. Okay. So alloquī, however, is the present active infinitive of alloquor. Okay. Incipit, to speak. Why did God not begin to speak? And illum, I guess, is to him, because alloquor takes a direct object, plus accusative. Speak to somebody. It's deponent. Right. It's conjugated like passive, though it is active. And add alloquor. So it makes sense why it would take the accusative, take a direct object. Illum must be ile in the accusative. Accusative masculine singular of ile. So everything is clear. That one. Him. Right? In late Latin. Right? So I might as well... more of a red for for illum we have red because it's obvious. Green for alloquī because that's really a new verb, new word. Red is like, draw your attention to this because it is worthy of note, but it's not totally new. Green will be, oh, this is new. Okay. So making up this language as I go. Okay, so we've been recording for 44 minutes. Let's keep going until an hour, and let's see where we get. Okay. Eof fine ut abstergēre etur ab omnicibo et potu qui fuit in visceribus eius usque ad oram illam in qua sanctificatus fuit et esset sicut angeli ministeri. Right. So this word I learned today, to polish, right? Basically abstergēo. So ab plus to wipe. I looked it up a little earlier before I did this. Abstergeō. Abstergeō. I wipe off, right? Right. Banish, expel, dispel. This word I definitely learned in Hebrew because I did not know it before. So let's pick up that same green and highlight this word in the Hebrew. Apologize for doing this kind of, having read this before making the video. It's good for me to review here, but I realize I'm not really going through it with quite as much amusement as I did the first time I read it. But yeah, this word, she'imarak, yamarek, however the nikudot are placed there, that is definitely a new word for me. Right, all the food and drink, kibo, potu. Let's look at potu because obviously we know that it means drink, but I don't know what the nominative singular is. Potus, drink, is a fourth declension. Okay, I'll note this. I'll note this properly. Potu, the ablative. And because that is an interesting word that I'm more or less familiar with, I'll just highlight it in red. A little red rectangle here. Eofine, what is that about? Eofine? That I really don't have any context for. Eofine. Fine? Sine? Eocine? That's a word? Fine. Latin. Until. Fine. Until the end, right? Because if I say it's the ablative singular of AO is also the ablative, huh? AO in Latin is ablative in there at that place, right? Declined is, right? Until with dative of time up until then. But here we have with ablative, fine, until the end. Let's pull up fine here. It's possible that it's also ablative and dative. That would be pretty typical for Latin. Because finis Eo. Sometimes it stands for eo tempore, in that time or place. Eo tempore. Right, so it's like, in the end, as all his food he had dispelled, he had been cleansed of abstergēre tur, he had been cleansed of all his food and all his drink that was in his viscera, eus usque. Usque meaning both the food, right, and the drink. No, all the way, until, sometimes with add. So it was really usque, and that's what gives us jusqu'à ce que, voilà. Usque, very nice. So I should definitely note that. Copy, paste, highlight usque here. We know that with this semicolon addition to the Q, we have to add a UE after. It's pretty common. Okay. Eius. Now, what's the purpose of eius here? Genitive. Simply his viscera. Qui fuit in vis queribus eius. Right, in his viscera. So I'm gonna because it does say me'av, right, in the other place. In the Hebrew it says me'av. It had viscera with the third person singular prepossessive suffix. And here we just have the genitive of him that serves the same purpose. Okay. Ad oram ilam, until that hour. In qua sanctificatus fuit, in which he was sanctified. Esset sicut. Thus as he was, as the ministering angels, esset. That, what's that technically? Third person singular imperfect active subjunctive. So again, we recognize it as sum, though we could definitely use a review of how that works. And perhaps we will look that up. We will look up the use of the imperfect subjunctive at a later date in a book. Okay. 54 minutes. We've got 6 more minutes until we hit an hour. We want an hour of study here. We're caught up in the Hebrew and the Latin. Let's make it to the end of this paragraph, huh? Amar le Rabbi Matya ben Charesh, Rabbi Rabbeinu, I guess, not Rabbeinu, but rather our rabbis. How would I say, not Rabbeinu, which is singular, but Rabbani, I mean, as opposed to Rabbanim Shalanu, whatever, I'm not going to waste time. Our rabbis. Rabbanan, in Aramaic, I believe. Lo amru ella le'ayem alav, kadeshi kabel alav, divrei Torah be'ema, be'ira, beratet, ובזיעה, שנאמר, עבדו את השם בעירה וגילו ברעדה. Okay, so Rabbi Nathane ben Charej said that our rabbis said that this was only to intimidate him so that he would accept the Torah in fear and in another type of fear and shaking and beziyah. I guess that's sweating. Is it sweating? Zayin Yud Ayin? No, I guess this is a word that means, and I didn't know this, it is a word that means awe, respect, fear. Okay, what's up with that? Look up. What does the dictionary tell us here? Evan Shoshan, the default Apple dictionary, what does it tell us? Ra'ada, retet. Interesting. Reish tet tet. Here we see reish tav tav. Okay. In brachot it says be'ema uv'ira u'virtet u'v'zi'ah. Right. V'hu omed beretet v'zi'ah u'machazik bichnaf binyamin b'shtei yadav. That is from Mandele something. Mos. Okay, so that's an interesting Hebrew word we learned. It warrants a little highlight here. Right. Warrants a little highlight. Okay. Okay, we got to the 2 dots here. And this is from Tehillim. There is this word. As it is said, so in fear, right? As it is said, serve Hashem in fear, v'gilu b'ra'ada. V'gilu b'ra'ada. I'm not sure what is this v'gilu? So what is this, Tehillim? It can't be Tehillim Beis. It is? Tehillim Beis 11? I doubt it. No, it is. Vigilu. Yeah, okay. And rejoice. Like Hava Nagila. Okay. So obviously I know that word, but not well enough. That warrants a little... You know what? I'm going to stick to the same color code and say that that's a red. Because I know Hava Nagila and so on and similar. But it is a word to remind myself of. Bera'ada. Yeah, that is the second psalm. It's a little embarrassing, I didn't know that. Okay. Okay, so we're making progress and we really like the Latin equivalents and alloquor, right? We found some very interesting stuff here. So, I have 17 seconds. No, you know what? It was very successful. We got to a nice stopping point. We could keep going later. I'm looking forward to continuing this.